Wow, Marcus Conte reporting. Hey, what a day! What a day, man! Fucking Q is a phony. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I was so invested in fucking Q. Oh my god. You heard that shit, right? Q, the magical, mystical man. Q, fucking the genius sitting next to Donald J. Trump. Oh my god. So there's a clip down below of AON, the network, right? Fucking guys, right? They got very close to some guy. Look, I don't. I look. Do I have to say I told you so? But it was a fake, man. The whole shit was fake, right? It's fake, you know. And the saddest part of the fake thing, right? You could find out for yourself what they found. They basically, AON, they got a guy that was one of a couple of guys that was allegedly Q. I mean, it's not guaranteed, but there's a voice on a recording, and he says he's very, very deep in with Q, and he showed his computer screen, and it seems to be valid. But the story is, I mean, it was to me, it was kind of obvious that it was somebody, pulling everybody else's chain, right? But the chains that Q pulled are enormous, right? Now, is Lina, I'll just name a few. I mean, I'm not poking fun at you guys, but I mean, now that you know that Q is not sitting to the right of the father, Donald Trump, and he is in fact a kid in his mother's basement, with some computer skills, maybe you should come clean, right? So Lionel Nation is a bow down worshiper of the drops. Oh, the Q drop. Oh, Q dropped. He made a drop today. Or Jerome Corsi. Who's that other guy? Destroy the illusion. Jordan, whatever the fuck his name is. That kid Jordan, right? Mr. fucking Q, right? All these guys have been dragging people through this fake Q story for a year now, right? And it turns out it's just a bunch of guys sitting in a room theorizing on about basically what people want to hear. It's a way of not getting off our ass and actually getting involved in politics and actually getting involved in the things that matter. On that note, that maybe we are on a truth quest. Maybe there's a couple of charlatans inside of a truth movement, and Q is clearly one of them. Definitely entertaining. I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant stuff. But it's more sad that legitimate news people like Jerome Corsi, like Lionel Nation, that believe this ridiculousness so wholeheartedly. I think that's the real story. That bravo Q. Slow golf clap. You got them. You fucking got them, man. You got them with their mouth open. But closer to home is our friend George Webb. Now, see, Q is exposing things from afar, right? And there's no way to prove any of what he's saying is not true until it actually happens, and it's the opposite. Like he said that Hillary Clinton would go to jail, and in fact all of Comey and McCabe, and they went after the other guy, right? A lot of what Q is exposing is future. It's future, and it's tied to something that we cannot validate, right? But with George Webb, we can validate it. Why? Because I'll show you why, right? So George Webb was there was an interview, right? Imran Awan. George Webb is instrumental in following the Imran Awan spy ring in Congress story from the beginning. Now, look, I'll say it, even a blind pig finds corn sometimes, right? A blind fucking pig walking around the field can find a piece of corn sometimes, right? That so much of what this guy says is crap, right? It's bullshit, and I'll show you why, right? So Imran Awan is going to be interviewed, right, in 2 hours, right? And George goes live, and he talks about the interviewer, not so much Imran Awan, but he talks about the guy interviewing the very magical, mystical, important Imran Awan, right? And that guy happens to be me, right? So I'm just gonna let's watch something, and you'll find out, right, exactly how wrong he was. On my count, there's about 16 inconsistencies. So let's just talk about it.
I think it's only going to be a 15-minute interview, but if you're just joining us, there's a 15-minute Imran Awan interview coming up at 2:30. Marcus Conte is going to do that. I don't know. But is it tied to the Mercer that was working with Mercer Investments that was working with Steve Bannon? I don't know. It seems like he has some kind of connections at the state. So there's going to be an interview with Marcus Conte interviewing Imran Awan. It's going to be a 15-minute interview. I think we know Marcus works at Mercer Way, which is 1166 Avenue of the Americas or Fifth Avenue in New York. Don't know what they do. It sounds kind of like insurance brokerage, like contingency. He also works for this company called Leading Way, and that's out in Los Angeles area, I think. And Leading Way seems to be a company that does payday loans type of thing. If you're short on cash, same sort of thing probably as Law Cash did, that Shields guy did, loan money in order to get you through a tough spot. He also seems to be somehow connected to Stanford University in the biology department. I'm not sure if that's his sister or whatnot. So Marcus gets around New York. I think he's from Larchmont, New York. He's also kind of got some connection to Bethesda, Maryland. There's a real interesting guy who lives in the same building in Bethesda, Maryland with the World Bank. He's key IMF investor for the World Bank. So it's just this odd kind of, and plus he tells me he's kind of like a jet setter racing around with these different bands. So it's interesting to see how this would this materialize. It kind of sounds like a jet set insider setup for the interview. How did he get this? How did Marcus Conte with 150 subscribers or 300 subscribers get the Imran Awan interview? Kind of jet setting all around. He tells me he's like to be a manager for all these bands, top bands. So how does that work? He knows this guy named Chris Cornell. I don't know if it's I know it's not the same guy who died last year, the famous Chris Cornell. I don't think. I think it's going to happen. I knew Marcus was not. I knew that was board of this. He works for a company called Mercer. And is it tied to the Mercer that was working with Mercer Investments that was working with Steve Bannon? I don't know. Anyway, we'll see if knows Chris Cornell. Sorry. We'll see if Marcus Conte was a manager for Chris Cornell. We'll see if Leading Way is actually a payday loans company. Remember, this Gorbani had a second profile named Paydays and SIU, and I was on Union Street. I went to Brooklyn. This guy Marcus, I knew I had to take the interview because I was like, I'm going to show up on the courthouse steps. If you haven't seen the episode, I'm going to show up on the courthouse steps of the Supreme Court. Will George Webb show up? Yes, I did, but I was filming it. I said, I can see the hit job coming. I think this is SEIU. I can see the SEIU garbage truck coming, right? From a long way away. Now, who's paying for the truck, right? It's the only thing I gotta figure out here. So yeah, again, Marcus works for this company called Mercer, which is, I think, an insurance broker on 1166 Fifth Avenue. He also works. No, I'm not saying he's SEIU. I'm not saying Marcus is SEIU, but at SEIU, would you hire somebody to go in and record the supervisor saying you got to do at least 10 tickets? I would, because that means now all my guys are off the hook having to do 10 tickets. I can have my guys doing 2 or 3. Not saying Marcus is SEIU. I'm just saying that the motivations would line up that he would be SEIU. When I see these kind of knee-jerk reactions on the other side, I think, oh my God, he's onto it. We gotta do some shiny object real quick. I mean, this thing came up like that, Marcus. I'm thinking SEIU. I'm thinking all those guys, SEIU guys, were hanging off the back of those garbage trucks. All those SEIU guys who are, half of them are DEA informants with very prescribed routes in their wards. Let me tell you, if you ever are an SEIU dump truck guy and you go in somebody else's ward and try to sell drugs, you're gonna end up in the East River. Let me tell you that. So I'm not saying that's what this is, but man, it feels like it. And it sure feels like it. But is it tied to the Mercer that was working with Mercer Investments that was working with Steve Bannon? I don't know. It seems like he has some kind of connections at the state.
Number one, I'm the manager of Chris Cornell of Soundgarden. I'll start with that one because that's the funniest. I would never in a million years manage Soundgarden because they suck, first of all, right? I'm a fucking fan. I never liked their music. I like the song. They had a, Black Hole Song, Won't You Come? That one good song, but false, right? False. I never fucking met Chris Cornell. I've never seen a Chris Cornell concert. I don't like his music. No connection, number one. Number two, that somehow I'm tied to Stanford University biology department. I've never been to Stanford University. I had to look it up and see where it was. It's in Connecticut, right? But my sister is. I don't have a sister, right? I don't have a sister. So that's four misses already. Somehow I'm connected to state. I'm not connected to no state. I work in the city. That's another story, but besides the point, right? I work for a company called Leading Way, a payday lender company. This is eight mistakes already, right? I don't know anything. I've never heard of the organization Leading Way, a payday loan company. That's total bullshit, right? SEIU, it's in Los Angeles. I've been to Los Angeles twice. Once to go on The Price is Right, right? And there's another time to visit my buddy who was living there, right? Venice Beach. But the idea that I would work for a payday lender is ridiculous. I mean, that's the opposite of what I stand for. Works for the Mercer Way Investments connected to Steve Bannon. That's 10 misses, right? I don't fucking know what he's talking about. It's ridiculous, Mercers. The Mercers, by the way, are a very wealthy family in New York City. That they do in fact have an apartment on Fifth Avenue, right? But George says that I work at 1166 Fifth Avenue of the Americas. Fifth Avenue is not Avenue of the Americas. Sixth Avenue is Avenue of the Americas. So look it up, 1166 Fifth or Sixth Avenue. It doesn't even make sense. Right? I mean, for the last 2 years, all you have to do is look in the box down below if you want to research me. I've made myself completely open. Right? I was a sanitation enforcement agent. All right. So that's 11 already on my count. SEIU guys hanging off the back. This is divisive. SEIU guys hanging off the back of garbage trucks. Half of them are DEA informants and killers. That they're hitmen. Now that's fucked up, right? Because, well, first of all, just the accuracy of it. Sanitation enforcement, sanitation workers are not SEIU. They're Teamsters. They're local 831 Teamsters, right? Most of them are family guys. They're nice guys. I never had a problem with any of the sanitation workers, right? They pick up the garbage. They're hardworking guys, right? Enforcement, where I work, there's a different union. That's 1182. So there's no SEIU. This is a fucking fantasy. Enjoy. Tony's running around in the elevator gonna fucking kill you. It's bullshit, right? So that's I think 13 or 14 misses already. He funded these guys, the Tonys from SEIU, funded my trip to DC to visit George. George was incidental, first of all. It was just fun to see how open I can catch him with his mouth open. Right? So that's 14. Nobody funded my fucking trip, and he wasn't the centerpiece of my trip, right? Jet setter racing around with these bands, right? I'm sleeping by 10 o'clock every night. I go to sleep. Right now it's like 7 o'clock New York time. I'm fucking ready to go to bed. So no jet setting here. Uh, he tells me he's a manager for all these top bands. I never talked to George about anything. I said, I handed him once the interview was over, I handed him a pile of stickers and I went the other way and fucking downloaded the video, right? That's it, right? There was no discussions, so he's making shit up, right? So, I mean, even a good psychic is right like 4 or 5 times out of 10, right? George is 16-0, right? Rather than pick up one of my videos, if you look down at my videos, everything is there, right? There's 400 videos of me talking about my experience of exposing a ticket quota in New York City and going head to head, right? Head to head with City Hall, right? And all you had to do was watch a video or two, or pop open pop open some of the files, some of the case files, and you would know exactly who I am. What's the point of this shit? What's the fucking point of this guy, George? He doesn't even deserve this amount of time. But what? Look, this is proof, right? Okay, now we go further, right? So now that I've just debunked George Webb in his entirety, right? He's supposed to be the brilliant investigative journalist, the brilliant guy who does the deep dive and talks all this jargon and no one knows what he's talking about, right? And when the evidence of who I am is right in front of his face, all he had to do was open the box below him in the video, and he would have known exactly who I am. Instead, he formulates this entirely ridiculous picture. Now, did he do it on purpose? Is that what he's going to do now? He's going to turn around and say, "No, that was just a play to." It's the guy's a fucking. I'm now coming to the conclusion. I'm almost ready, based on this kind of scenario. I'm almost ready to make a diagnosis here and say that he's definitely a sociopath, but is he a psychopath? Where he's dangerous. Well, we can make that assessment at this point because there is a dead journalist, right?
There's a lot of people that don't want to subscribe, and there's a good reason for that. And people just don't want to be tracked. I mean, after what happened to Jenny, etc. I get it. This is not a game with no consequences, unfortunately.
The thing that drew me into George Webb of late is not some magical, mystical thing that he uncovered, right? Of the thousands of things that George has spewed out his ass, right? That stream of ass that comes out of George's mouth, right? He hit 2, right? He did, in fact, uncover something that most people didn't really know at the time with the diplomatic containers. That was kind of interesting, right? And the fact that Grassley talked about, Senator Grassley talked about Imran Awan, and George pursued that story, with a vigor. He went deep into it, right? But that's just one of so many stories. So what I guess what I want to say is that it's now that George Webb is completely debunked, right? For the most part, right? That there's 16 out of 16 things that he said, or maybe 17 or 18, I don't know, you count, are false, right? Now, are people still going to rationalize and justify and postulate that George is up to something, that what George really means is that Conte is a disinformant agent. He's out there trying to deceive you. Don't believe him. He's a very, very bad person. This is charlatanism, right? Right? This is the thing that a truth movement is supposed to be exposing. And you have one of these guys right in front of you, right? Look, I am who I am. I am who I say I am. I mean what I say what I mean, all that shit, right? And the bottom line is, it's the answers to our woes are not fishing around in the sea of speculation. The answers are right in front of us. They're called free and fair elections. If we could seize power in Congress and Senate, if we could take all of this incredible desire for truth and focus it in the right place, like a microscope, like a where's my magnifying glass? It's like you take a magnifying glass and you focus that energy. Look, and you look at his eyeballs. Oh, it's matter. Take my look. There's more of me and there's less of me. What do you want to see? You want to see more of that guy? Let's see this guy. Oh, I can't see him. Anyway, it's an interesting day. Q is no more. I mean, people will still follow him. People will still rationalize. George Webb is bordering on, psychological breakdown. He's just going to keep going. Well, George Webb now, after watching this, hello George, are you gonna fess up that you do a form of cold reading where you just throw out garbage and if something sticks, then you come back and you circle around to it. I don't know. It's all on you guys who you choose to believe. So that's my little take. There'll be more on this. Jenny Moore. I mean, that is the consequence, because I'll say one last thing, is that there is consequences to this sort of ridiculous stuff, right? Because there is a dead journalist, right? Or is there a dead journalist? We still don't know. Was this made up by George? Right? We don't even fucking know, right? We can't even conclusively excuse me say that this girl is dead. But we're gonna keep working on this, and they say, like, and I'm not saying this to stroke my ego, but to say that sometimes you just punch the wrong guy in the face, right? You mess with the wrong guy, and the wrong guy comes at you, and he turns you inside out, right? And he shows everybody what you really are, right? Rather you thought I was going to play patty cake with you, and I was going to be a little fucking side monkey, right? But the fact is that I'm after the truth, and you do not, Mr. Webb, do not represent the truth. You're a fucking liar. You're a fucking storyteller. You're a false prophet, a fake fucking psychic. You're like that Zoltar machine. You know the Zoltar machine? You put a quarter in the fucking machine, and out comes a fucking bullshit and a little piece of paper, and you read your fortune. That's you, George Webb. You're the fucking Zoltar machine. My name is Marcus Conte. Peace.